guys, what is going on? Blossom is back, and welcome back to another episode of Top Drives. Now, once again, pack week is finally over, and we are back to our beloved series with the Gawalms and the garage reviews and the top 10s and the pack reviews and all that kind of stuff. And today we're going to be continuing with garage review. Today's garage is owned by the fantastic Nosam W. As you can see, 3,000 trophies, about 8,000 cash, 130 renown, which is nice to see. It means that you are actually playing in championships, 562 gold, 500 RQ, and 305 cars in the garage. As you can see the statistics here, 44 commons, 48 uncommons, 38 rares, 46 super rares, 80 ultra rares, 42 epics, and 7 legendaries. I have to say, that epic count is very, very impressive. In fact, when you look at it, he almost has as many epics as he has commons and uncommons, and he has more epics than rares. So this is kind of looking like how my garage was looking like when I first started out playing Top Drives. Especially when I first started out playing Top Drives, the numbers in my garage were like 7 legendaries, 50 epics, and then like 1 common. Okay, not really 50, but like, 35, just a lot more than the commons, uncommons, and rares. So that's pretty nice to see. That's a really good epic count, and soon we'll be seeing what are those exact epics. So he's also going to show us the amount of cars he has upgraded, and as you can see here, only 3 out of those 40, I think 42 epics were maxed out, which is pretty interesting actually, because that is, it's not the best ratio, to say the least. But that's it. Let's get into the garage. Now, first of all, I want to say that Nosam here, his garage, or the person that owns his garage, is actually, he actually got the highest tier in my Patreon. So shout out to him. And one of the perks, if you get the highest tier, is you get the full shindig, I guess, of garage review. A whole video dedicated just to your garage, and you get to skip the whole queue as well. If you're wondering, I have the Patreon links at the end of the video as well as in the description. However, the highest tier is already sold out. I only limited it to 5 people. So shout out to Nosam for getting that. Thank you so much for your support. So starting us off here, we start off with the GMC Caballero and 2 M35s. Now, the first thing I want to talk about here is the Citroen M35. This is a car that you don't see a lot, and I just think it's pretty unique that we're greeted by the Citroen M35, because usually when it comes to garages that we've reviewed, and you've seen this in other episodes, we usually start off with seeing just a whole army of Type 2s, right? Obviously, he wasn't here when the first batch of Type 2s came out, or at least he couldn't win them because he doesn't have them, but he does have the later Type 2s. But yeah, we usually see those Type 2s. We usually see cars like the GMC Caballero, the BMW Isetta, especially X2s, which has 25, the Citroen 2CVs, or even some of the classic Porsches. But we don't usually see the Citroen M35, so that's pretty interesting to see. It's definitely something that I noticed was completely different from all the other garages I've been reviewing as of late. So there is a trend going on in this garage, and we're gonna get into my notes right away. So as you can see here, we got some usual suspects, right? We got the TVR 1600, we got the Lotus 7M, not Lotus 7M, sorry, I was thinking of the 1600M, but with the Lotus 7, so some pretty interesting cars, some pretty useful cars as well. We have the BMW 507, the Pontiac Tempest Le Mans GTO, and then we now see 3 MG midgets, as well as what seems to be 6 MGBs. Is there more? 6 MGBs. And like I said, this garage has something very unique to it. And a couple weeks ago we were talking about how one of the garages I reviewed was the Land Rover dealership. This one is the MG dealership. I don't know. It's interesting to see. I don't know what made you choose MG, but out of, all the brands in the game, this is a pretty unique one. Not a lot of people are going to be collecting MG, so it's pretty nice to see. It's definitely very, very unique. It's just MG for days. That's what I said in the notes. But yeah, moving on now. The main thing I want to talk about your comments is you already have some key comments in your garage, Nosam. These are the cars that I would recommend you to max out. The Alfa Romeo 2600 SC, which we kind of skimmed over. So if you over here, RQ17, and obviously this is a car I talk about in literally every garage review. Max it out 332 because it's the best comment on the test bowl. Also the Opel GT 323 is a really good car. The Ford RS 1600, max it out 323, as well as the Fiat Panda 4x4, max it out 323. So those are some really key comments. Also, I did not mention this in my notes, but I see here the Ford Focus Coupe Cabriolet. That's a very very good car. It hits about 85 handling, if I remember correctly. Very, very good common. I personally don't have it, but I'm meaning to get one for a while. That, as well as the Dictator Mercedes. Two key commons that I don't have. And obviously, you don't have the Dictator Mercedes in your garage, so I would definitely recommend you getting that as well. If you don't know what the Dictator Mercedes is, I don't know the model name, but if you do check out Mercedes, if you go to Commons, it is the black limousine. It's the only one there. You can't miss it. So some commons that you need now would be the Pontiac Firebird Trans Am. That's one car which is, I'm kind of surprised that you don't have, because literally I would say about 95% of the garages in Top Drives would probably have the Firebird Trans Am, the common one that hits 84 handling. I believe it's RQ13, if not 14. It's a great car. I would also recommend the 1500 Biposto. It's a great dragster. It beats the Caballero now, as well as the Alfa Romeo 1750 GTV, as well as the Alfa Romeo Sprint GTV. These are two new cars I've never really recommended in garage review, because I never really owned them before, but now I have both of them maxed out, and they're actually great cars for clubs because they're performance tires, they're low ground clearance, and I have to say, ironically, when it comes to common performance tires and low ground clearance, especially in the RQ14-13 range, is very, very rare to find. So if you do get them, you are already getting cars in a very niche category. And those cars aren't too bad either. They have 0 to 60s of under 10 seconds and handling of just about over 70. So it's definitely not too bad, especially when you consider that those cars are RQ13 or 14. So with that said, moving on to uncommons now, the first thing that we want to max out is a Vauxhall HP Forenza. It hits 80 handling, or at least over 80 handling, I think 81, and it has medium ground clearance. So for RQ20, that is a huge bang for your buck right there. Moving on, we are going to see the TVR timeline. Of course, we see 5 MGC GTs, right? And the MG dealership, right? This garage is called. I should start putting that as notes in my Blossom scores, like what car is the what brand dealership. I know Derek's is probably going to be the Jaguar dealership, if not Cookie. Oh yeah, both of them, really. Both my boys, they love their Jags. I do love Jag myself. But yeah, TVR Timar, that's a great car. I use this car so many times in clubs. So if you do play clubs, I would definitely recommend the TVR Timar. It's such a good car. 6.60 to 60, and I think 82 or 83 handling. Definitely a great car to have. Moving on, you have a lot of key uncommons as well. The Chevrolet S10 Blazer Extreme RQ25, definitely one car to max out. The Plymouth GTX, as well as the Lotus Twin Cam. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys will know. I'm actually surprised you have 2 GTXs, which probably means that you know that they are very useful cars, and so the GTX is definitely one that you should max out. Of course, it's nice to see you have the Twizy maxed out, the 110, as well as the Yunus Roadster. These are all key uncommon, so it's very nice to see. And of course, that Lotus Europa 47 Twin Cam, definitely a car to max out as well. 84 handling, 5.4 0 to 60, I believe. Definitely a very, very useful uncommon indeed. So with that said, I think that's enough on your plate for the uncommons for cars that you should consider maxing out. I don't really have any suggestions for cars that you can get, but off the top of my head, if you would like, the Mexico would be a good one to get, the Maserati Mexico. But with that said, the cars that I recommended to max out, you have enough on your plate there. That's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 max uncommons to do. So moving on to rare now. First one I want to talk about is the second Opel Mansa 400. If you do play clubs, I would recommend maxing out a second Opel Mansa 400. One car that I would also recommend is that Lotus Elan. Is going to be very useful for championships, as well as the Caterham 7160. Definitely the Caterham 7160 is a great car to max out. It used to be uncommon, now it's rare, but definitely still a great car after, I guess, the nerf to its RQ, because now it's harder to use since it's a higher RQ. But that said, I still think it's a buff, because although it's now a rare, it's still one of the lowest rarity rares, and that means you could use it in most rare events. You know, it's pretty nice. Also, if you haven't noticed already, do keep both those Opel Mansa 400 rallies. I just have a great feeling that those are gonna go super rare once they get off-road tires, because come on, look at it. It's called Rally. Look at the tires. Look at it. It has off-road tires, so definitely something to keep around, right? So some other great cars. The BMW i3 over there is a good one for championships for sure. The Alfa Romeo Alpha Stud as well, great car for the championship. So cars I would recommend you keeping around for sure. The Opel GT Concept, it's a great one. Nice to see you have 2 of them maxed, as well as of course 3 MG Montego Turbos. The MG is actually really good. It helps you a lot in the British Championships in Hampshire as well. Now, one car I would recommend you maxing out is that Pontiac Firebird Trans Am from 1970, the prize car. Max that baby out 996. It is so good. It is the best dragster rare for quarter mile as well as the half mile. And then when it comes to 1 mile, you will be maxing out a different car. 1 mile in the test bowl, you will be maxing out a different car. Right here, the RQ38 Maserati Ghibli SS. Really great car as well. I would definitely recommend keeping one of the Vauxhall Chevettes for championships because it hits about 91 handling and medium ground clearance. And of course, the Fiat 124 Sport Spider is a really good all-rounder, versatile, light, standard tire, decent handling rare. So definitely keep that around as well. So, moving on, just Max, I said everything I wanted to say in the notes without looking at my notes, so congrats to me. But I have to say, one more note about your rares is that you need to have more variety in your rares, right? Definitely get some standard tire cars, some all-surface tire cars, some off-road, some all-standard cars, not all-standard, some standard tire cars that I could recommend to you would be the Pontiac Bonneville, as well as the Chevrolet Malibu, some really good cars, as well as the Ford Mondeo, which is medium and hits 89 handling. So, moving on to super rare now, we're going to start off with a recommendation, and the first one, as you can see here, when we're greeted by your super rares, is that we see the Jaguar XKS S and the El Camino, both cars meant for the drag, and we see 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45. Next thing you know, we're already halfway through super rare, and it's lacking a lot in the low RQ super rare department. So the first thing I would really recommend you to look out for is get yourself a medium ground clearance, low RQ super rare performance tire car. It's a good one just for versatility. It's good for multiplayer events that might call for these niche category cars, and it's also very useful in clubs. So some low RQ medium ground clearance super rares that I would recommend for you would be the RQ40 Audi Quattro, which has 4-wheel drive, so you can use it in the rain, although it has performance tires, just to let you know. So I think that I-Pace that you have might be a little better, or is it the F-Pace? It's the I-Pace, right? The standard tire one. Well, actually, let's have a look. I'm actually curious to know now. Yeah, the E-Pace, that's right. The I-Pace is the epic. And then another car that I would recommend you to get or look out for is the RQ41 Mercedes-Benz 190E Evo. Rear-wheel drive, medium, low 0 to 60 hits about 5.4. Low 0 to 60 in relative terms for its RQ. Also recommend maxing out your Chevrolet K5 Blazer RQ43, as you can see in the corner of the screen. And next to it, the Abarth 124 Spider, definitely a car to max out as well. I used this car probably 6 or 7 times out of 10 in the Italian championships. That Abarth 124 Spider, perfection, right? Some cars for you to look out for as well would be the Cadillac ELR. It's standard tires, medium RQ, something that you need for your garage that you're lacking. Also the Chevrolet SSR. It's a medium RQ super rare that has medium ground clearance, which is a car that you're also lacking, a category that you're also lacking in. And finally, the Lamborghini Miura P400, not the Volkswagen, no, obviously not the Volkswagen, but not the convertible, but the hardtop, right? The Lamborghini Miura P400 is RQ46. It's a great car for the drag, the best for the drag if you don't have the D-Type. Obviously, I see you have 2 of those Corvette ZR2s, but the Miura P400 is just slightly better, and it's just better to have the best. However, the ZR2 is useful for the American Championships if you haven't gotten through that just yet. So yeah, some very nice cars as well. The Jaguar XJS, as well as the Renault R20 Turbo 4x4. That's a good car to max out as well. 4-wheel drive off-road tires. Pretty rare category for high RQ super rare, because before that you kind of have the K5 Blazer, but that's kind of more of a mid-tier to lower tier off-road super rare. And then you also have all those Ram Chargers, which are lower tier super rares. So definitely the R20 Turbo will represent the higher tier super rare off-road 4-wheel drive category. So yeah, very, very niche, right? Very, very niche, but also it's the best car in its niche category. It's nice to see that you have the D-Type maxed out, and you also have it maxed out 996. Mine is 969. It's kind of a car where it's good in both ways, but I've been meaning to get a second D-Type 996 as well, so that's a pretty nice one to get. And also max out the Datsun 240Z rally car. Can't go wrong with that. Definitely a great car to have. More notes that I have for super rare is to max out your C2R2, and of course I said here the C2R2 323, and of course the R20 Turbo 323. So moving on to ultra rare, let's talk about the fuse material, because there is a lot of fuse material to talk about, right? So fuse material cars to fuse would be the Mercedes S400, the Vauxhall GTC VXR, the Chevrolet Cobalt SSSC, the Lamborghini Countach LP400S, the BMW H2R, the Vauxhall Calibra Turbo. I was gonna say the Roof R56, but you have that 2-star, so might as well keep it around. And going down the list, the BMW H2R, the Land Rover PHEV, the Range Rover Sport, whatever 28 was, but I wrote down 28, the Infiniti M35, the BMW X5, and the Volkswagen R32. My man, you have a lot of Fuse Ultra Rares, and you know, I just want you to know, once I send you these pictures, you will know exactly what cars I'm talking about, the ones that I just listed. Now, you also have a lot of Max Ultras, not Max Ultras, but Ultras to Max Ultra projects that I would definitely recommend you. First one is your Desert. Max out your Desert. It's just a great twisty car, a light car as well. Of course, the purple Countach, or the Thanos Countach, best Ultra on the test bowl. The Renault Sport 275, which we just passed, as you can see there, right next to the Z8. Oh yeah, that's what I meant, not 28, Z8. Yeah, definitely Fuse on your Z8s. But yeah, the Renault Sport Megane 275 Trophy, that's a great one. Amazing handling, medium ground clearance French car. Also front wheel drive, great car for clubs. Definitely max out your Fiat Abarth 030 or 030, your Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 4, your TBR Tamora, and your Ford RS 500. So with that said, you have a lot of Ultras to max out. That's a lot of projects already. And you also have a lot of key maxed Ultras, such as the Colorado ZR2, the Auto Delta, the Porsche 968, as well as the Porsche 924 Rally. So I have to say, you've been pretty lucky with your Ultra Rares, man. You have gotten a lot of the key Ultras when you're already this early in the game, or when you're at the stage in the game that you are at right now. It's pretty insane considering, you know, for me, I don't even have a 968. I don't have an Auto Delta. I don't have a Tamora, and these are all Ultra Rares that are so key, and it's really detrimental that I don't have it, so I'm happy that you have it. Some really great cars here from the top of my head. You know, you have so many good cars as well, like the 030, the Evo, the Tamora RS 500. Only one car I can think of that you don't have, which I would consider is a key Ultra, and that is the Roof BTR. But with that said, you have the Tamora. The Tamora will beat the BTR in the quarter and the half mile, I do believe. So, you know, as long as you get that Tamora 332, you'd be fine, my guy. You will be fine. So with that said, let's move on to epics, because off this list you have 12 Ultras that I would fuse in a heartbeat, right? And that is basically almost a maxed out epic. So let's see what epics we can max out. Obviously, as you guys remember, there are only 3 maxed epics in this account, over 40, I think 42 in total epics. And I have to say, a lot of these epics are Fuse. Okay, the Evora, the XKR, Elise Sport, 911 Carrera, XKR S, convertible Camaro SS, WRX STI, BMW M6 from 2006, and the Roof RGT, just to name a few. Those are all Fuse epics. Those are epics that are useless. I definitely wouldn't mind throwing away at all. So definitely there is a legendary that I would definitely recommend you to max out, or at least put some upgrades in. But with that said, we are going to talk about epics for a second. So I know you have a question, what epic do you want to max out? Now, looking at your epics here, it's kind of like a polar opposite of your Ultra Rares, because in your Ultra Rares, you have like a lot of the key Ultras, but for epics, you don't really have a lot of key epics, to be honest. You don't have the Banana, you don't have the Furai, you don't have the Aston Martin CC100, you don't have the Jaguar I-Pace, you don't have the Ford Raptor, you know, definitely a couple, or a Roof R compressor, BMW M3 CS, Lamborghini Gallardo LP500, Audi S8. You know, these are all key epics that you don't have. So if you, let's say you are in a situation where you want to max out an epic, there are 2 options I would go with you. The first one would be you kind of just max out epics that you need for tri-series. So in this case, the CT6 is a great bet. Now the CT6 will go one above that, because not only this is a car that you need right now for the Corvette finals, it's also a really good standard tire car. In fact, it used to be the best standard tire car, or yeah, it used to be the best standard tire car in the game, and it used to also be the best not one of, actually the best epic standard tire car in the game when you go back to the OG days of Top Drives. But obviously now you have the DS numero 9 and you have the Jaguar I-Pace, which takes the crown off the CT6. But with that said, the CT6 is still a very, very solid machine. So with that said, if I were you, I would either max out that Cadillac CT6 or the C7 Corvette Grand Sport if you're really itching to max out an epic. If not, I would hold off and wait for a key epic such as the Superlight, the Fuel Ride, the JPE, you know, the Compressor, the BTR2, you know, all those cars, you know, those big heavy hitters, or even the Evo 10. Definitely, if you get a car that is RQ79 that isn't a TTS coupe, if you get a new car that is RQ79, do let me know in my private Discord server, because for sure I will tell you if it is definitely a useful car or not. So moving on to legendaries now. It's a pretty small legendary collection, but there is definitely one car I would put upgrades into, and that is the McLaren 12C GT3. If you had to max out the GT3, I would recommend it. Really, I would condone it, because the McLaren 12C GT3, when you think about it, if you max it out, it will go and help you in the long run. Anyway, with that said, let's get into the Blossom score. Alright guys, so here we are at the Blossom scores for Nosam. Let's give you a uniqueness. Definitely, you don't see a lot of garages out there with a bunch of MGs, right? So definitely an 8 out of 10. Moving on to patriotism. Now that's the thing. There are a lot of MGs, but does that mean that he's a great fan of British cars? There are some British cars here and there, but definitely not as much as I would give a high score for patriotism. So if that's how, I'll give it a 6 out of 10. Moving on is character. Definitely a pretty interesting garage, right? Not a lot of garages out there is going to have a bunch of MGs all over the place. In terms of weird upgrades, not a lot of weird upgrades, right? If you had something like an 888 Tamora or something like that, that would definitely catch my eye for sure. But I didn't see anything too weird. It was definitely very textbook. So if that's set for character, definitely just a 6 out of 10, which gives us a total of 14 plus 6, which is 20. So 20, there we go. Now moving on to the Top Drive scale, it's a pretty small garage, 305. It's pretty small, but it's not small, it's not massive, right? I would say it's kind of like, it's like creeping up to mid-size, but still a little below. And because of that, I'm going to give you a 5. Moving on to strength. Once again, there are key cars all over the place. This is a pretty interesting one where it's kind of like ultra heavy, ultra strong. Well, like the ultra rare section, right? Not ultra strong, but like the ultra rare strong. Super rare is quite weak. Rare, there's some key rares there, but most of them aren't maxed out. A lot of the lower tier cars are not maxed out. So definitely not the strongest garage, but definitely if you max some of it, if you listen to the notes and max some of the cars that I recommend, it will be a lot stronger. But it's definitely not the strongest garage we've seen, and I'm going to give a 5. Moving on to versatility. Once again, not a very versatile garage. I'll have to give you a 5 as well, but as you can tell, I've already given a lot of recommendations for, you know, standard tire cars, you know, in this section, off-road tire cars in this section, medium ground clearance cars in this section, etc., etc. But for now, it's going to be a 5. In terms of lethal level is looking at the cars that you have, and you have a lot of key cars already. All you need to do is max those cars out, especially in the rare, super rare, and ultra rare category. You actually have a lot of key cars. Especially the most interesting and the most surprising thing is the ultra rares. How many key ultra rares you have? I'm personally quite shocked about that, because even for me, opening the amount of packs that I open and the amount of time I've played, I don't even have like a similar count as you do. But for lethal level, I'm going to give you a 7. In terms of potential, it will be an 8 as long as you max everything out. You got a pretty potent garage right there. And finally, that gives us a total score of 15 plus 8. I have my calculator ready this time. Let's go, boys. So yeah, plus 7 and plus 8. That's 30, isn't it? Because 7 plus 8 is 50. Yeah, which is actually pretty nice. That gives us a score of 50. So Nosam, thank you so much for being a Patreon, and also thank you so much for submitting your garage. I hope you enjoyed this episode, guys, and I hope all of you watching enjoyed this episode of Garage Review. Remember to stay safe and wash your hands, and I'll see you all next time. Blossom out.